We're on time.
And we're doing it, y'all. Here we go. Intro sequence. Here it is, y'all. Here it is. What up, my fellow tokers, smokers, and jokers? It's your boy, Chef Rodney117 here from Deliciously Dope TV. Sorry about being late, y'all. It's cool. We're going to shake off those Christmas jitters, a little bit of the snow, if you will. Santa came and brought me a bunch of cookies, and you know my fat ass ate them. So, and then blazed up after that. But today, y'all, today is one of the hands down most exciting episode. I can't even do it justice, but I'm going to try to. Here it is, y'all. 2020, the well-known dumpster fire coming to an end. What an emotional roller coaster it's been. As we look back and reflect on what's happened, we often forget about what we've learned. Now, as polarizing as this past year has been, it doesn't change the fact that everyone slid into almost a year-long depression. Yo, that's a rabbit hole, right? Am I right? Yeah. Now, we could call it a perfect moment of misery, or we can just try and send it. No, that's not what I was trained to do. That's not what I do, okay? I want to clean the lip of that plate off and correct the mistakes I can see, to remain consistent, to send out the same thing time and time again, so that there's no question that I've mastered that recipe. So what happens when the prep cooks, don't prep for this? What do we do now? Like most cooks and chefs, we don't bother other people with their own mental stuff, man. We are stoic, shameless, and sometimes cold. What happened? What happened? We can't prep for this. What happened? COVID happened, and it worked as a perfect storm. It took away everything we took years to prep. And again, what happens if the prep cooks don't prep the night before? You ain't got nothing for that service. What do we do then? We continue the fucking show. We continue to occupy our industry with reasons why, and many more reasons why not. But without the sacrifice of some, we would not have the views, the clarity, the clairvoyance, if you will, that tainted yellow brick road of certainty or uncertainty that we choose to travel. We wouldn't have that without, all of their sacrifices and the things that they've loved and lost again and again. Life is an amusement park. I'm here to enjoy the ride. We all know who said that. But does that mitigate an expectation of kindness? What about the joys of being normal? But can normal ever be as it were before? No, what is normal? It doesn't matter. We're never going to go back to normal. Personally, I hope we never do. I hope we don't ever find our old normal. I hope we create a new one. And here's where we start that. Let's come together over food, y'all, to share a moment of rawness, something real like flavor. Now, the late and great Anthony Bourdain said, "I would rather fail gloriously than not venture, not try." This is where we learned from that bad meal that was 2020. But I'm not the only one. Our next guest will sit down with anyone nice to them, and he'll hear what you have to say. But be warned. He will tell you what he thinks as well. May you agree, may you disagree. You still walk away with a mutual respect of each other. Now, we are the lucky ones here at the Daily Chronicles, myself, Eric Eating. We are being graced by the culinary anarchist, now often being diverted with his or with people he frequents, excuse me. Our next guest meets a lot of lovely people on his travels, a great deal of amazing dishes and routines. But without further ado, y'all, I give you the witty, the immensely outspoken, uncompromising, the never uncomfortable Seth McKenzie, y'all. What up, guy? How you doing?
Thank you.
with that type of introduction, man, your fans are going to be severely disappointed. I hate to tell you, but it is an absolute honor to be on this show and to be able to hang out with you guys. Obviously, I've known you, Rodney, for a while, and am incredibly proud of everything you've done. You've been a fan of mine for years, and as you know, man, I'm all about the collaboration. I'm all about supporting, my followers and my fans and stuff like that, because, this is a big fucking pie and we can all have our own piece. And so to be able to see you have your success doing this, that's awesome as shit to me. So thank you for having me on this show. I look forward to our witty little banter this morning, and let's see what happens.
I'm excited, man. I have questions, dog. I have questions. Like a lot of people that we have on the show, and Eric can attest to this. Like, we have questions and we talk and things like that, and that's great. But you and I see things from a very similar perspective. Okay. We get to the point to where, like, if something just gets confusing, we're just like, fuck them. We know what's worth our time, and sitting down together and collabing and definitely talking about, how we're going to move forward in this industry, with COVID and shit, what's happened, just kind of a real raw, like kind of unapologetic look back as to, who we are as people and where we're going, man. Cause you and I were talking a little bit before the show. It's about, we need to stop focusing on what happened. And you're absolutely right. We need to start focusing on what we're going to do about it. You feel me? Because if you don't have, some kind of, goal or ambition, dude, you're gonna fall, you're done. Where that drive's gone.
And we're not we're just talking about the problem. We're just bitching at that point, So I agree with you as well.
And don't get me wrong, man. I mean, I totally understand it. I obviously, you've been following me for a while. You know that life has taken some very unexpected twists and turns, and I'm kind of used to that for myself. And one of the things that I got to step back and kind of realize is like, this year for me personally has sucked fucking ass, man. I mean, on just about all accounts. And I'm cool with that because I'm kind of used to going through periods of that. But the industry, every single person that I know has gotten sucker punched, and not everybody is kind of like as adapt to it as I am, I guess. And so this has been traumatic for fucking everybody. And so, we definitely need to take a step back and kind of lick our wounds and look at where we're at. But instead of just crying, it's over, it's over, it's over, it's like, take a step back, but don't fucking quit. Don't I love the industry too much to ever get out of it. Like, I've given up on the idea of me ever going to school and becoming a teacher or any of that shit. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to end up dying of a heart attack in the kitchen, and I'm fine with that, I'm going to die doing what I love. But the point is that I think that we really need to start focusing on solution, and everybody that's bitching about it's over. I ask them, like, have you taken the time to call your state reps and say, hey, what are you doing about small businesses? What are you doing to push a stimulus package? What are you doing to, save our stages? Because let's face it, man, we're some ornery motherfuckers in this industry, man. I mean, cooks, chefs, servers, bartenders, if we all got together and typed in our little search engine, state of whatever the fuck we're living in, senators, representatives, and started getting on the phone and saying, hey, what are you doing about this, man? I'm out of work. You're supposed to be doing your job. And we put the pressure on them. I mean, because it breaks my heart.
Let me touch on that real quick, if you don't mind, Seth. So it's interesting because I couldn't eloquently put it into those that idea. I couldn't put it into that catalytic idea. It was a seed. I had this thought, this feeling, that kind of emotion. I had exactly that a few weeks ago. Back when I reached out to Mr. Ryan Bayshore off of Redemption Cannabis. Definitely check out our episode, man. He's here in Michigan. He helped get clemency for Michael Thompson, which served 30 years in prison for a cannabis charge. You see what I'm saying? So he's helping do this. You see what I'm saying? And that's kind of that's so if I can learn that same basis and that same drive and surround my people, myself with Eric, yourself and him, dude, we can change the industry. When they told us we fucking couldn't, we're doing it. And you know what? We're coming for everything they told us we couldn't have. Because you know what? At the end of the day, we're the ones making y'all the money.
Well, And I mean, let's face it, you know, you've seen the fact that I've posted some, I guess, controversial positions in the industry. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like a lot of people I feel in the industry have a sense of Stockholm syndrome. We are so used to the way things are that we have a hard time thinking that we can actually change something. And that's why I've written articles about, you know, what to do about dealing with a shady boss and how to handle those situations so that it empowers my readers. Because there are a lot of times, let's face it, you know, if you don't know the local laws, you don't know how to go about it, and an employer screws you over, their attitude is, we've got money, we've got lawyers, we're going to use intimidation. There's nothing you can do about it.
It happens a lot more than y'all think.
Mm-hmm. And so it's, you know, trying to empower people and just being able to say, you know, I'm not expecting us to get our asses kissed. I don't want that. No. That's not the type of thing. But I do want to be able to have a relative comfortable life being able to do what I do. The way things have worked out is I look at how much money I was making 10 years ago and what the buying power on that had versus 10 years later, I've got 10 years more experience in a much wider variety of places. And yet I'm actually making less money. You know, I'm taking home way less money at the end of the day. And I hate to say it, man. I mean, before this COVID thing happened, the industry was so fucking oversaturated that I think that this is acting as a wildfire. And it breaks my heart to see the places that have been around 20, 30 years going under. But there's a whole lot of shitty places that really had no business being open to begin with. And a lot of posters that aren't going to last through this, and they're going to go take day jobs doing whatever the fuck else and become accountants and doctors.
Let me spin off that real quick. Let me spin off that. So let me just say this, and I hope you agree with this. Listen, if your chefs or your cooks or anyone working for you, okay, is making more on unemployment than they were when they were working for you, you don't deserve to be in business.
Exactly. And I mentioned this to you, you know, before we went on the air, but it's like, you know, I've always had the policy of I'd much rather pay 2 guys that give a shit $20 an hour than 3 guys that don't $15 an hour, because I'm going to get way more out of those guys and have way more loyalty because they know that I'm going to bend over and, you know, take care of them.
They know you give a shit.
You're probably going to need 4 of those other guys, because I know exactly what you guys are talking about. And 10 years ago, the wage for a line cook is the same as now.
Yep.
You know, like,
and if you take care of your staff, your labor is going to take care of itself. But it's, you know, a lot of people that are in the industry, and let's face it, I mean, I fell into the industry myself. You know, I pissed off my parents. I got put in the dish pit. It's not like I ever set out to be a chef. And shit, I cooked for 12 years before I finally had a kind of come to Jesus. And it's like, okay, this is what I do. Like, this is the only place that I'm actually happy. And I kind of had, like, come to terms with the fact that even though I didn't want to be a chef, I was a chef, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense.
Well, I mean, I'll put it to you this way, you know, and you've seen some of the posts that I've made about, you know, cooking and food, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I was moderately successful as a musician. I made good money at it, is what I'm saying. I was moderately.
I mean, you got the jacket for it.
I was decent as an artist, as a painter, and I actually made money selling my paintings. A lot of my people still have some of my paintings hanging up. But when I was working with food, that was the medium that I was happiest working with, even though I didn't want to be a chef. When I was behind a stove, like, that's when everything really clicked. And what I've said before with food is food and sex are the only 2 things that you experience simultaneously with all 6 senses. You know, art, music, any other form of art, no disrespect to it, of course. There's certain limitations, but with food and sex, it engages everything seamlessly, you know, and that's, yeah, man, it's
so that actually leads me. That leads me into what I'm doing, you know, with taking cannabis and putting it in food. Dude, the market's stupid saturated right now. Eric, you know, we were talking about this the other day. We're like, dude, does it seem like everyone's putting weed in food now? And they're like, yeah, you know, and it's annoying. But why, how, niches, recipes, all of that's going to change and revolutionize the way that, the culinary industry actually is. Let's face it. Okay. I hope to see that, in the, let's say Johnson & Wales books or the CIA books at, back where the herbs are listed, cannabis being listed as one. You understand? I want to get to that because that's what it is, man. That's really what it is. It's an herb. It just so happens you add it. There are some side effects, but that being said, art is something that you feel. Absolutely. 100%. Now, so is cannabis. Now, I do have a question for you. How familiar are you with the entourage effect?
Give me a better description of it.
So, you have terpenes and things like that. So we have myrcene, we have beta caryophyllene, we have limonene, all of these different terpenes, smells, flavors, aromas. You get the idea. It's found in mangoes, all kinds of lemongrass, all these oregano herbs. Okay. Yeah. These terpenes carry cannabinoids found in, you guessed it, weed and cannabis, and they carry those to our endocannabinoid system. So the more terpenes and flavors or aromas you have in something, the more of an absorption of cannabinoids that you're going to have, which is why when we eat things food-wise, there are some psychedelic effects versus when you smoke it. You see what I'm saying? You're getting black or THC, a higher concentration of it. That being said,
as we all know, edibles are quite a different experience. So
I watched a video you did, a time-lapse video of you on edibles one night. That was hilarious, dude. Hilarious. I watched the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I need to actually repost that. And see, the reason that I did that is, obviously, I've used this for almost 30 years now. In a sense, longer than that. That's a whole other story. But I also want to encourage responsible use of it. And that's one of the reasons I did that large dose. And I even told people, like, I'm not going anywhere. And I did it, once an hour for 6 hours, I think.
Yeah.
And by hour 5, I was sitting there, I posted a video to load automatically for me, where I was like, fuck this. I don't want to, I wouldn't get behind the wheel of a car. I wouldn't get on a skateboard right now.
Could you do me a favor and get me that video? I'd love to share it if you wouldn't mind.
I will totally get you that video.
Yeah.
But the reason I did it is I wanted people to see the real effects of it, where it's like, dude, if this is what it does to me with my level of tolerance, don't play around.
Maybe eat half that brownie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because, and it's just I don't know, are you familiar? Fuck it, I'll give them a shout out. Have you heard of these Sizzy pods?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, prime example, thing I don't like about this is the fact that it doesn't hit that hard. But somebody that is obviously just getting into it, it's perfect because like a 5-10 card, it's not going to knock you off your ass in one hit. I mean, you got to give it a good little puff or two for it to be able to affect. But for the casual user, absolutely perfect, easy to use, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Especially
you should say that because
first time user, people that are inexperienced, people that have bad experiences and don't want to try pot again. If like you said, you eat too much, especially, that's when it just takes time, and one big blast, one big rip off a dab rig or something like that, or a really good pen. People have bad experiences and they don't want to try it again.
Well, and that's, that's, I think the difference between a pothead and a stoner is the fact that, there's a lot of people that I think definitely use cannabis for the wrong reasons. And I think there's a lot of misuse and the attitudes. But I think that people, that's one of the reasons that I don't obviously, I don't advocate use, but at the same time, I don't deny my own use because I don't want to, I guess, glorify it, if that makes any sense.
Yep. No, it makes total sense.
I want people to
you're not trying to glorify. You're not trying to glorify the reason behind having to use it.
Exactly, and it's not for everybody. I mean, that's just the simple fact, and it's one of those things where. I'm all about freedom. I'm all about liberty. And I want to live in a country where we have choices, because there's a whole lot of things that I'm not into personally, but I think that people should be allowed to do if that's what they choose to do with other consenting adults, because it doesn't hurt me. And because I want to smoke weed doesn't mean that I'm going to force it on everybody else and say, you have to smoke weed. You have to smoke weed. No, Just, give me my own little space. I don't have to worry about getting busted because, I mean, the funny thing is, it's like, dude, a lot of people think that I've got this, like, on record and shit like that. No, dude, I've been arrested 4 times in my life, all of it for, like, misdemeanor, like, less than an 8 charges of marijuana. So there you go. Nothing violent, nothing weird, nothing out of the ordinary. Yeah, I'm a lot calmer than a lot of people think that I am. In a certain sense. Not all the time.
Oh, 100%. And that's, it's interesting you should say that because I have a very, like, I demand a certain presence, like, and it's not anything like, what's the word? Anything like bad. Like, it's just like, I'm just a happy-go-lucky person. I used to, dude, I'll be honest with you, I don't drink anymore, and that's just me. Cannabis changed my life, and it is what it is. So I kind of want to give back to it. I had a lot of mental health issues and stuff like that, but what people don't talk about is, and what people in my situation, because there's more than one, clearly, I'm a recovering narcissist, man. You know what I'm saying? I used to lie, cheat, and steal because A, you don't make shit money as a cook or a chef. You don't. Okay. A. B. If you don't have a side hustle or a vice, you ain't gonna live. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's that rough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this, and I know you know this.
Oh yeah.
We've lost a lot of people to mental health issues and suicides and things like that. You understand?
Dude,
like,
it's ridiculous, man. And I mean, face it, you followed me since 2016. I make 0 qualms with my shit because I feel like, if I'm ashamed to talk about my mental health issues, that only increases the stigma, and I'm not trying to be a fucking poster boy for it, but yeah, man, I've called the suicide hotline a couple of times and have definitely been staring over the fucking edge more times than I'm comfortable with sharing, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm lucky to be here, and I wouldn't wish that type of hell on anybody. So...
And that's, that's one of the things that's definitely like my niche, if you will. Like, that's where I pride myself. And Eric, again, thank you for joining me on this journey, if you will. And, I definitely, I want to pick up where Bourdain left off. I'm not going to lie to you. I want to do it more so because everybody told me I couldn't. And that's what he would love that. You understand? That's my point. We need to start celebrating who we are as a people and how we got here and shit like that. But at the same time, like, understand that and build for the future. Like, dude, here's the thing. We'll sit down with anybody who's, nice to us. If you're a dickhead, we don't really want to talk to you because we already know going into this conversation that you're not really going to listen to my side.
Oh, yeah. You read some of the, you read the comments on a lot of the posts that I make, and you see the amount of trolls that I attract, and there's definitely a lot of shit that I post that I know is not safe, quote unquote, and that I know is going to generate a certain level of response, but man, some of this shit's fucking crazy, man. Wow.
Yeah, there's some crazy people out there that it seems like some people just want to, argue
the world burn
about anything, and if you don't agree with our opinions and you don't have to comment, go about your day.
I mean, I had this whole thing, I'm just going to go ahead and call it out, but Mission Barbecue. Do you know anything about this, Rodney?
Nope.
Okay, so quick back up. Last week, close friend of mine, my chef, sent me a photo where there's a chain called Mission Barbecue. It's essentially KFC of fucking barbecue. Okay. They had accidentally had a 4-gallon case of liquid smoke dropped off at my buddy's barbecue.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
So, anyways, me being slightly dickish, went and posted on their thing. I'm like, liquid smoke, like, what the fuck? Like, you're really gonna serve this shit? And yeah, I knew what I was doing. I definitely was poking a little bit, but my God, the response that I got from that, and like listening to these people try to come to the defense of this shit, it's like listening to an Applebee's cook come to the defense of using a microwave and then expecting me to apologize for having standards.
That is a very good analogy. I mean,
dude, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, like, I'm not an elitist. It's not like I go out and I mill my own flour or anything and make my own pasta every night that I cook pasta from scratch. I've got limited resources. I make the do with the best of what I've got with my equipment, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have space to make.
You adapt and overcome.
Exactly. And that, that goes back to Bourdain's attitude of being a punk and back to culinary anarchy. It's like, everybody's bitching about what we don't have. And I'm trying to focus on, okay, here's what we do have in this really shitty situation. How are we going to make the best out of it? We still have our skills. We still have hungry people. How the fuck are we going to connect the two, despite the fact that we don't have a restaurant, despite the fact that we don't have this, despite the fact that we don't have that? We still have the two primary functions. We still have our talent, and we still have hungry motherfuckers that can't do what we do. Simple as that.
What if I had an answer for all that?
I'd be open to hear it.
Okay. Well, remind me after the show, please, and I will tell you. It's not something I want to drop for everybody yet, but Eric, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm definitely this.
Oh, he knows. Everybody that hears it and they just look at me and their jaws. Why has nobody thought of that? I was like, exactly, which is why I'm on it. And the cool thing is I have the ability with knowing people like you that can just make this happen. We can make this go nationwide and launch at the exact same time in all 50 fucking states and save the restaurant industry in a week.
I'm excited to hear about this idea you got.
It literally prints its own money.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the problem with that is we're still going to have to deal with the state regulations and anything like that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to encourage my fan base, I guess, to get more politically involved is because of the fact that, politics are the reason why we're in this situation right now. Politics are the reason why people are losing their jobs and getting ready to get evicted, because people automatically assume that the powers that be were going to automatically take care of us and put their interests ahead of their own. And
very good.
We've seen, look at the fucking outcome of it. This is what happens when you ignore the problem. This is what happens when you don't step up and do something. Things perpetuate. And I've always encouraged my readers, whether it be in the recipes or whether it be with this type of shit, to step up and get fucking active. Do something. Take action. Don't sit there on your fucking keyboard and run your mouth. Get up and make phone calls. Go out to demonstrations. Go and fucking do something proactive that has a tangible impact. You making stupid little comments on the internet doesn't do shit, dude. It really doesn't. That's why, all these, Proud Boy motherfuckers, when they start blah, 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 it's like,
right,
dude, you're too scared to even fucking show your face online. You really, come the fuck on, man. Really? So, but people, like I said, it comes back to taking actual action, going and contacting your state reps and saying, what are you doing? Why are you not doing something? Why are you letting, small businesses suffer? Because it's the same problem that I've had with Cisco for years, is Cisco's come in and they have pushed out the smaller vendors and almost created a monopoly for themselves in a lot of markets, to where now people just don't have another choice. And it's the same thing that's going to end up happening to small businesses right now, because when giant corporate chains are getting these fucking bailouts, but small mom and pop places that have been around supporting their fucking neighborhood for a decade or more are closing up, it's fucking ridiculous. Because what's going to end up happening is all these mom and pop places are going to shut down. Guys like us aren't going to have a fucking job, because it sure as fuck ain't like Applebee's. It's going to let me have creative control over a kitchen. And people are going to have no other choice but to suffer through. I mean, what really scares me, I know you guys have seen Demolition Man, but it's when that came out, the idea of Taco Bell being the dominant fucking, it's no. And after 2020, I'm like, fuck. We're moving towards that is what I'm saying. And it's because of the fact that politics don't belong in kitchens. Fuck you, dude. Get the fuck over that. Not you guys, obviously.
No. So I'm trying to think of how I want to say. Sorry, I just smoked that whole I just chiefed that joint down. Sorry, took that to the dome real quick. I agree with you. That there is a place for politics in the kitchen. Let's face it. When you look at the things of you go from the owner to the chef, executive chef, and the hierarchy. Hierarchies are politics. How are they not? You know what I'm saying? Hierarchies are fully political. For example, I will give you a good example of how political kitchens can be. If you want to aspire to become sous chef, what do you got to do? You got to be better, than everybody else. That's really what it is. And let's face it, we've all done some very questionable, maybe unethical things to get higher up in the fucking ranks so that we can make more money. Yeah. But then as soon as you get there, you don't remember the toes that you don't forget the fucking people you stepped over, et cetera, et cetera. So they halfway accept you. Let's face it. No one's fucking perfect. It is what it is. But in order to get to a position where we can do something about it, quote unquote, in the kitchen, a sous chef has more call than a line cook. Let's face it. A sous chef can control certain schedules if they wanted to. You get the idea. More input. Okay. Basically, the sous chef runs everything if you know exactly how it goes in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? I'm joking. But the point is, so we've all done that. So that's political. That's political. End of story. I mean, I don't care what you say. What was that?
It happens everywhere, like especially the bigger corporations and stuff. If people are working there, the owners, the managers, and all that are trying to influence people's votes. Especially people's votes and stuff because it influences the overall corporation. So now when we're talking small business and stuff, if it's like not okay to talk politics in the workspace, then how are we going to make changes for what we're trying to aspire for? If we're trying to stay in the culinary industry or anything else, or start a small business of our own, we all should be talking about those things. And maybe they aren't fighting with each other, but there's a way that we can accept everyone's opinions and talk about the actual pros and cons without getting upset with each other.
Well,
sorry, Seth, what were you going to say?
Well, I feel personally, if you're not able to share your numbers with your staff, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's if you're not able to share your numbers with your staff, then you're fucking hiding something.
If the owner has to come to you or whoever's running the numbers, whoever has the books, sorry, if they have to come to you and say, oh, everything I do is above the table, the moment you didn't ask why, if they come off, they're doing something wrong. All right, I'm not going to lie to you. I had an employer that was supposed to take a certain percentage out of my check. Okay. That wasn't taken out. And since that wasn't taken out, triggered an electronic system to come and arrest my ass. You understand? Yeah. So I found out that they said they were taking it out, but they weren't paying that. They were just taking it and keeping it. So then when I questioned them, not once, not twice, but thrice, and I sat down and was like, okay. The first time I went in there, I was like, what you're going to do is you're going to adjust it and give me this much more of a raise. I bartered that. They allowed it. They tried to fight back. It is what it is. So I'm sitting there going, why am I messing with y'all? I should just find something else. And so then I started looking. But the next 2 weeks were questionable at best. I didn't, 100%. I gave them 100% until I walked out. You know what I'm saying? My 2 weeks.
That situation, let me tell you, always make sure you do that shit on text message because if you have that shit on paper trail, when it comes to L&I was in a situation a couple of years ago at a spot in Seattle, and I had earned a bonus because I had done a catering job last minute for the guy's family, whatever. And then a couple of days later, it was a Greek guy. We got into it. I walked. And then he tried to say that, the $300 was off the table because I had fucking quit. But he had already agreed to it, and I had this on text message. I said, all right, cool. And all I did was forward the messages to labor, and they said, nope. And they fucking paid me the check the next week. So it's one of those things where employers do have rights, but we got to get rid of these shady fucking owners. And I'm not saying that all restaurant owners are shady, but enough of them are to where it creates a bad vibe in the industry, and it creates a case of Stockholm syndrome because we've normalized working 60 hours a week. We've normalized not being able to have a life outside of the kitchen. And
we've iconicized it.
Why? Give me one fucking reason.
Because somebody said it was cool. That's my point. You know what I'm saying? It all starts with, bro, and I hate to keep going back to it, but it's pinnacle. It's iconic. Kitchen Confidential. That was the beginning of showing people what happened behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? The toxicity, if you will, the bureaucracy, the stories of love, life and loss, if you will, addiction, all those travesties, yet beautiful images of, this very viscerine, if you will, fucking like reality. You know, it's to the point where like literally for us, it's a life and death every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to walk, but like,
because it's funny you mentioned that because I gotta share this, man. But like, just 2 days ago, I was driving around and I happened to pass by this library up in North Berkeley that I actually got my first copy of Coaching Confidential back in like 2004. Before it was one of those things where a couple other guys said, "Hey, if you get a chance to read this book," but I found it in a used book pile for $1.50. It was like, fuck it, it's worth it. This guy seems halfway cool, and it was the first time that I realized that like there was a chance for me to do this because this guy was one of us, He wasn't this like pretentious stick up his ass wearing the fucking white torque because, back in the 90s, that's what you thought a chef was supposed to be. There weren't any, I mean, Marco came up in 99, but it's like, we didn't have the fucking internet back in 99. Like, unless you were working as a badass chef already in New York City at that time, like growing up in Virginia, I had no idea who the fuck Marco was until like 5 years later, because of Bourdain. So, and just for the record, fucking Marco's a sellout, let's face it.
I look at it this way. Did he, I can have my personal opinions about Gordon Ramsay. I can have my personal opinions about Guy Fieri, Rachel Ray, Emeril Lagasse, Julia Child, Jacques Pepin, all of them, Marco. I can have my opinions about anybody else. But fact is, something in their life happened for them to make that decision. That's the way that I look at it. Okay. And something led them to that point. You got to respect that hustle. But at the same time, like, okay, so let's say this. Let's say Marco was like, yo, do I sell out or do I continue doing this? And then he looks at his family. He's like, well, okay, my dog's gerbil has cancer or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? So we don't know. And we may never know, and some people may know. I look at it this way.
Marco, let me just address that because, like, it broke my fucking heart. I had his photo hanging up in my kitchen for years before I found out about his allegiance with mon-fri Group. Because Marco was the epitome of fucking greatness for the longest time. It was a huge inspiration for me personally because reading his book and, especially when he essentially the part of his book where he talks about how he goes into the Michelin Review Board and says, listen, I've worked for so-and-so, I've worked at this place, I'm doing what they do, only I'm doing it better, and you have to give me my fucking stars or you're a fucking fraud. Like, and he was dead on. Like, it didn't matter who he was, it didn't matter that he was banging models or doing this or doing that or all the crazy shit. The bottom line is they could have hated him as a person, but he was doing everything better than the best of the best. He was this fucking English guy that was out cooking the fucking French at their own fucking game and turned Harvey's, which was, this like no-name shithole bar on a bad part of London.
Uh-oh.
He froze.
There
he is.
But then to, find out that he's, and I mean, it's like, I've always been poor, so I don't know what it's like to have money and then to not have money. So I can't really relate to his situation, but it's still like to see that and for him to say that that was his secret ingredient all along, either he's lying now or everything that he said in those books about, trying 60 different coffees and all the other shit that he said was total bullshit to sell books. And if that's the case, then dude, fuck you. Like, what he did in the industry. So it's like I said, I'm more brokenhearted because it's like, the way I framed it in the article is like, imagine, you idolize this baseball player all your life and, you fucking work out, you don't do drugs and you fucking do all the, what I'm saying? Right. And then you meet the guy and he's coked out of his mind with a couple of fucking hookers and tells you to go fuck off. Like that's kind of what happened when I found out that Marco was doing his thing.
Yeah,
like what the fuck? This is my hero. And it's like I hope he got. I mean, it's his life, it's his conscience. It doesn't affect the way that I cook because I'm still gonna fucking carry the integrity and shit like that. I mean, it's but like I said, when I read that, it was a devastating fucking blow to see that, you know, and it was up there with, you know, a lot of other, you know, tragic events that we've had to face in the industry.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is the industry that we're living in, we're used to tragedy. We're not used to tragedy on this scale, but at the end of the fucking day, like, cooking's the only thing that's ever really kept me going. And I mean, I can be having the worst day ever, and if I'm in a kitchen like that, I have control over. I can't control, you know, if you know, I'm getting into arguments with my roommate or my girlfriend or whatever. I can't control if shit's happening with my family, but I can go in there and control what I do in a kitchen to a degree. You know what I mean?
Right. I look at it this way, like, you know, there's ingredients to certain recipes that you have to follow that make them milestone recipes. For example, we won't go back to talking about mirepoix, however you want to say it. You know, it's the same meaning, same concept, same thing, same holy trinity, just said differently because of dialects. All right, so we all know what it is. A good chef knows where it came from and why. But that's a whole nother, you know, an article of discussion there. But you understand that for a mirepoix, you have to have this, this, and this. Yes, you can add these few things to it, and a lot of people add this, and then this area of this world adds this. But the same basic recipe is the same consistent 3 ingredients. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Exactly.
Life is the same way. Okay. For example, we're going to have a rise. We're going to have a fall. We're going to have ups. We're going to have downs. The fact is, you still have to keep going forward. This shit's happening. Don't worry about looking behind you. You're not going that way. But it is good to look in the rearview mirror as we're driving through that desolate desert that we call life. You know, but I really wonder, how is it going to speed up and slow down? You understand, like, the speed limits, when and where? Because sometimes we'll drive through and go, why is it all of a sudden 45 from 70? And for no reason, you know, we don't understand it, but then local laws and whatever. But when is that downshift? When are we going to stop for gas? You start wondering these things. Now, I see that as positive thinking. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting because it's like, I imagine, you know, chefs like Marco and all these other people that made a living doing one thing and then said another, sold out or whatever have you. I look at them as other cars on the road that I passed that I was like, oh man, I liked your car, but you look like a douchebag. You know what I mean? And just keep driving past, you know? But it's like, you still have to keep moving forward. And that's what 2021 is, y'all. It's just one more. Will this be, you know, the bigger sister that comes in to rail us from behind of 2020? I don't know. We don't know. It's all about the unknown. If you're not scared going into 2021, then apparently you're not doing something right. Because here's the thing. I feel that all of the purging that's happened, and I hate to use that term, but it is what it is, y'all. Let's accept it. But all the purging that's happened from all industries and all walks of life across 2020, I hope that from that we can be a phoenix from the ashes and kind of rise up and be like, yo, those were the problems that we needed to fix anyways. You feel me? We need to fix those. So a lot of people are going to, you know, point that at politically, but I'm sorry, if you're going to point it politically, okay, then you would say that this virus was created politically. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of conspiracy theory, a lot of, you know, yes and no's and stuff like that. And then, you know, there's a religious aspect to it all. I say, fuck all that noise. I look at it, yo, we have this virus to deal with. We still have to deal with this. Don't matter what happens, you still have to deal with this. And us as chefs, we know that. You know what I mean? We understand that, yo, you still have to make this recipe, though. You know what I'm saying? You still have to send it. Find something, you know, to fix it. And that's where the flavor Bible saved my ass, I'll tell you. But
I mean, you something you said earlier in the very beginning of the show in terms of, like, what do you do if we're not prepared for this? Which obviously we're fucking not. You know, you go in, you don't have any ingredients. And it's the same thing you would do in a kitchen, man. You fucking, you know, you 86 a whole lot of items and you make do with what the fuck you got, and you run a limited menu until you can get shit restocked. Right. And you hustle. And that's right now what we've got to do. And a lot of guys ain't going to be able to hang. Nope. But there are a lot of guys out there that it's like, cooking is what the fuck we do. And as long as there are hungry people that are going to pay for our food, we're going to find a way through, around, or over, metaphorically speaking. I mean, I definitely think that, yeah, we're coming back. I think the industry is it's never going to go back to how it was. And let's face it, the industry has been, we've been complaining about it for years. As chefs, this is our opportunity to fucking change the industry. This is our opportunity to reshape the way that things are, because we've been decimated. And so if we got to start rebuilding, let's rebuild it differently. You know, fuck this sometimes things where we're not able to have lives. You know, let's scale this shit back and not have, you know, these fucking menus that are running, you know, 40 or 50 different things at one time, and go back to what we're good at, and go back to smaller places that, you know, we're not trying to turn 300 covers. We're trying to do 90 plates a night of high quality food with 1 or 2 good people at our side and a good bartender.
It's not about quantity, it's about quality, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I think that it also needs to go back, and
let's give exclusivity back to food.
Well, and I think that we need to come together as an industry. I think that we've had so much focus on competition and being better than everybody else. I think that we need to really come together and work together on this and say, you know, how can these two things pair up? And you know, because individually, I'm not going to be able to open a restaurant. There's no fucking way. But like I said, I might be able to come up with a little bit of money. And if I put my money with another person, and we create a co-op system and create that type of model instead of a sole proprietorship, I think that that's what we're going to start seeing is a lot of smaller pop-ups and things like that replanted. You know, I worked in Yellowstone for a couple of seasons. I worked in Grand Tetons summer before last. And you see these areas that are decimated by wildfire, but that ash, all that shit, when it looks, you know, gray and bleak, if you actually
really good for the soil.
Yeah, and you see these like 3-foot tall saplings and these fucking wildflowers and all this shit that, no, it's not this great big grand forest, but that's how those things come back into life. And it's, you know, look at the meatpacking district in New York, for example. 25 years ago, one of the worst neighborhoods in fucking New York City. You know what happened? A couple of innovative chefs that couldn't afford rent at other places because they weren't doing things in the box. They wanted to try things experimentally. They went and made a name for themselves. And now here we are 30 years later, and the meatpacking district's like the fucking hip restaurant spot in New York City, where 25, 30 years ago wasn't shit. And it's the same thing that's going to happen in the restaurant industry on a larger scale.
100%.
You know, we have the modern that most people don't have. And people are always going to want food. I mean, that's just like, people are always going to be hungry. They're going to want stuff that they can't do themselves. And, you know, it might not be these grand dining halls. It might be these, you know, little pop-up food trucks and shit like that. But we're still going to continue. You know, we just have to fucking adapt or die, man. I mean, fuck.
Exactly. Eric, sorry, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just saying that I'd love to see that happen, you know, and especially with like all the chefs, a lot of people I've worked with, you know, in the restaurant industry, we have a lot of drive in us, you know, and so when we're, you know, not just hurting for money, but not doing our passion, we're going to find a way to do it, you know, and whether it's teaming up with people or, like you said, just totally changing around things to make the model work for 2021 and beyond. You know, I think we are going to see a lot of that, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
So I look at it this way. I think that cannabis companies, small mom and pop cannabis companies, should take a lesson from anybody in the culinary industry that has been affected from COVID, and here's why. We got decimated completely out of nowhere with something we couldn't fight against. We couldn't protect against, you know, this and that and the other. It doesn't matter what cleaning practices we did to keep up with, you know, state regulations and then our expectations on top of that. It doesn't matter. Okay. We got hit, and we got hit hard. Blindsided. Okay. Cannabis became essential. Well, shit, food's more essential than cannabis. I'm going to be honest with you. You got to eat to live. You know, eating healthy, that's a whole different story. But the point is, you have to consume something to live. Nutrients. You got to have that. You know what I'm saying? That's essential as well. So how come, and I love cannabis. I love weed, y'all. Look at my show. My point is, how come cannabis is now more essential than weed or than food? You know, that it, in my mind, I guess, kind of makes sense, but I'm biased as hell. From someone looking on the outside looking in, and somebody said this. They go, listen, I don't consume cannabis. I don't consume anything. The only bad thing I consume is coffee, you know, caffeine. That's it. But from the outside looking in, I'm curious, why did food, you know, Food's always been there, you know, food. But the problem is we weren't eating right. So now we have a chance to combine everything. You see what I'm saying? So maybe, just maybe, we're looking at things going, okay, cool, let's adapt and overcome. Let's throw this together for a new feature tonight because we had 86 of those boards. That's my point, y'all. Chefs know when to 86 something. They know when not to 86 something. I mean, okay, dude, if it's 11 a.m. and you're running a 7 o'clock, feature or something like that, or 6 o'clock feature, and you got time to run to the store and you can do that, and that's how it's done anyways, clearly don't 86 it. Just run to the store. You know what I'm saying? I get it. But certain circumstances, certain reasons to 86. And I think, honestly, I don't know about y'all, but I learned a shit ton from 2020. I'll be honest with you. I learned that just because you call somebody a really good friend, they'll snap on your ass like that. It's all about money, dog. Because guess what? Business is personal. It's a dog-eat-dog world. You just got to have bigger teeth than the person next to you. That's really what it is. Sometimes you ain't got to bite, and please don't bite me because I bite back. Sometimes you got to bark. Have you heard me? I can't shut the fuck up. But the point is, it's a dog-eat-dog world. We're still here, and we're all just as hairy as each other. So you know what? Ain't really no sense in seeing who can piss over the fence and who can't. Because honestly, don't worry about what's going on in other people's backyards if yours looks like shit.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Man, I think we need to do a better job with like helping our neighbors out. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's too much, I guess, individualism in the industry and not enough solidarity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's like, it's
time for us to come together, y'all.
It really is, man. It really is. And I mean, there's one thing, having a little bit of witty banter and shit like that, but like, we're all suffering because of this. Ain't nobody fucking doing well right now. Like,
oh, hell no.
And, so if we're going to change this, it's not going to be on an individual basis. We got to work together, like I said. And even with what you're talking about combining cannabis and things like that, like, it's still going to come down to local regulations and being able to be outspoken and be active and actually taking part in the process of all this. Sitting around typing shit.
Know why you're angry. Don't just be angry. Know why you're angry. But if in knowing why you're angry, know what you can do about it.
And that's the whole thing is, transference of that energy into something positive. And I mean, and that's kind of one of the reasons I even started writing Culinary Anarchy anyways, is because there were a lot of things that I felt needed to be addressed in the industry, but I didn't want to sit around on my soapbox and just quiet about it. I wanted to actually, identify the problem and say, this is what we can do to fix them. And, that was 8.5, almost 9 years ago. So, I mean, here we are. And I don't know how big of an impact I've had, but I'd like to think that, there are at least a few people that haven't gotten screwed over by some shitty people or were inspired to, put themselves in the order pizza. Like, if I've at least had that much of an impact, then I'm pretty fucking happy. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my point. If you look at it, it's interesting because I look at the people I surround myself with and I look what they're doing and how selfless some of those acts are. They, at the end of the day, they're not really working for themselves. They're working because of a reason, and that whatever that reason may be, I hope it's positive. I hope it's influential. I hope it's, pragmatic enough to get you through 2021, and I hope that you prosper. That's a lot of P just during that sentence. I'd rather not repeat that shit.
Yeah, I think it's big going back to like the community thing and like us working together, as like a whole with each other. We are instinctually pack animals, just like dogs, and so like, we can bark and we can snap at each other, or we can be the best dogs that we can be and help each other out, and run as a pack with each other and understand that we all might be different breeds of dogs or have different ideas and stuff, but at the end of the day, we need to come together, and find a way to work together.
Well, 100%. Yeah, man. I mean, it's really to the point to where like, this is what I'm doing now, where I can, I can sum this up in four words, man. I used to have this long, this is what it's going to be, and this is what I'm going to do. And fuck all that. I'm not even going to lie to you. Get entertained, get educated. That is my goal. If I can educate you through entertaining you, that is my goal. Whether that be cooking something, whether that be discussing something, that's why I've got my review channel. We're going to have strain reviews coming back. That actually got demanded to come back, but all right, cool. And other stuff coming for 2021. I'm excited for Deliciously Dope TV, 100%, because we know people like you, like-minded individuals that we would love to, obviously share the love with, and kind of, learn from where you failed, make the same mistakes, do the same shit. Because, dude, real talk, thank you for coming on the show. I say that not only as the host of this show, but as a true fan. I've been following you for, 4 or 5 years now, man.
Oh, yeah.
Your shit's on point.
Thank you. Thank you very
Your
much.
shit's on point. Like, anybody that disagrees, you and dude, I would love to be a fly on the wall of any of that conversation. You understand?
Well, I mean, what's funny too is, like, especially with right now with Facebook, I got banned for a month because of some and so it's like right now I'm having to deal with a lot of the same kind of trolls, and I'm having to really watch the way that I phrase certain things and having to bite my tongue, because let's face it, I'm not trying to get kicked off of there again, because then that prevents me from sharing my shit with others, and I'm still able to post on my website, blah 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 blah. But it's definitely made me more diplomatic.
Speaking of website, where can people find you?
You can find me literally anywhere on culinaryanarchy.com is the main website. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, Facebook. Especially if you want to support me, $1 a month on Patreon would be awesome. Culinary Anarchy is on Patreon as well, because let's face it, my ass is broke as fuck too, but whatever. We make do and we get by. And yeah, as far as 2020 comes, or 2021 is coming, I'm already booked for a gig. I'm going to be in Atlanta the first week in April. Fingers are crossed. My hopes are that things will settle down with this pandemic and that people will get their shit together and start washing and staying the fuck away from other people. It's not just one thing that we got to do as a community. We got to do a bunch of shit to get this thing squared away. But I think once we do, my goal is hopefully, come spring or summertime, be able to hit the road and start, going and cooking with people like you and some of my other fans and doing more collaborative projects. I got
dude. We'd love to have you
out soon. So, fingers crossed. Despite the shit show that this past year has been, I'm actually very optimistic with what's coming in 2021. And I think a lot of it has to do with the attitude. I have no doubt that there are going to be setbacks. I have no doubt that there are going to be obstacles and that shit's going to go sideways in all of my plans, because things never work out. I'm just used to that.
Yeah.
But, it's still the mindset of, like, I'm focusing on this, and whatever comes along, I'm going to figure out a fucking way to get around it or over it or through it. You feel me? And I think as long as you have that attitude of, like, okay, whatever, adapt. Figure it out, okay.
Adapt and overcome, y'all. That's really what we got to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Eric, it's, every time that I take a look at a situation, you're always there to be like, okay, that's great, but, and you're like that little, I wouldn't say angel, because like, I mean, okay, maybe angel, but like not really devil. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of times where you're just like, that's cool, but maybe not. And then it's just like, you always look at the outside perspective, which makes me look at things and go, okay, wait a minute. And so then that's when I take a step back, and then instead of just sending it, I clean the lip of the plate, correct the mistake, and send it out and become consistent. So thank you for that, Eric. God, that took me forever to get to.
Outlook, but sometimes it can be a critical outlook too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always thinking, especially when we're talking ideas of getting things out. And I was just trying to build. It's never that I'm never. I don't think I've ever told you that you've had a bad idea, because I've never heard one out of your mouth. But what I'm saying is, when we worked on them and talked about them, there is like, details that we each have our pieces of the puzzle, and we put them together. It makes a little bit fuller map for us to go off of. So I love working with
100%. But again, guys, this is what we do. We sit down and we talk about moving forward, whether it be cannabis, whether it be nuts, it just people. We talk about moving forward, just again as people. That being said, y'all, I'd like to say thank you to our guests. Thank you to Eric for coming on the show. You guys are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I had a blast.
I appreciate it. But we've come to another end of the show, y'all. Let's look back at things that we've done in 2020 and say thank you to them as we move forward to 2021 and the new exciting things that we're able to do now because of certain stressors or whatever, and the exciting things that we're scared to do. Whether you're, thinking about opening a new business or anything of that nature, I wish you well. Okay. All of you tokers, smokers, and jokers, I'm your boy, Chef Rodney117 from Deliciously Dope TV, y'all. Peace.
That was fun.